today I'm joined with Rhian from Insight 6. Rhian, thank you for coming onto the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So let's start off. Who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Rhian Anstey from Insight 6 and I'm a customer experience professional.
Talk to me about customer experience. What does that mean?
Well, I think a lot of people get it confused with customer service. So I tell people what I do and they generally will start telling me about a bad customer service that they've had. And they think it's that interaction where it's one-on-one, where you're speaking to a member of an organisation. But actually it's so much bigger than that. It's the full end-to-end journey from when a customer starts thinking about wanting to use you as a business to all the way through using you, all those little touch points in between and what they say about you afterward. It's everything from how you appear online, so what other people are saying about you, so what they're reading about you, what if they put, it's so common now where people will put a post into a Facebook group, can someone recommend A? And everyone comes up. It's all those kind of things that start forming the experience. So if one person says something like, oh, you don't want to use them because, then that can have a massive impact on what happens next and they may never reach you in the first place. Always, since leaving university, where I did performing arts, so completely, I wanted to be a star.
And now you are?
And now I am. Now I'm on the Celtic Financial Podcast of life goals. But no, when I left university, I started working in retail, as a lot of people do, kind of fell into a customer service job, face-to-face with customers. And then worked my way up from sales advisor into management in various different companies, but they were always like high end, more not very transactional scenarios where it was you were having to delve a bit deeper and get to know customers a bit more. And then I had an opportunity to buy a franchise of a mobile phone, well-known mobile phone chain. And I owned 3 stores. And I think that was the point where I realised the difference between customer service and experience. So one of the first things I did was buy coffee machines for all my stores so that the customers knew if they were given a cup of coffee, they were going to be sitting there for an hour. It's not going to be a quick transactional process. It's a longer conversation where they feel more relaxed. They get to know the person serving them. It just became more of a... I suppose it's that feeling, isn't it? And it's making someone feel comfortable. So that was probably the point where I started thinking more about customer experience. And then I joined Insight 6 in 2021. I did my qualification with my CCXP, so the Certified Customer Experience Professional qualification, and looked into sort of more of the theory and more of the strategies behind stuff.
Excellent. And I love this because, as you know, I'm really passionate about the client experience from, as you've said, how they see you online to the first impressions as they come through the door. And one thing you touched on, which, again, I really love, is that coffee process. And let's bring it back to professional services because that's probably the background most of potentially my listeners are from, solicitors, accountants, financial advisors. In a world of rising technology, AI is absolutely everywhere now, isn't it? My belief is that customer experience and that atmosphere that you create on arrival is going to be more and more important. Is that something that you're seeing?
I definitely think it's kind of the new battlefield, I suppose. You can't compete on price. You're never going to win. Unfortunately, location isn't the centerpiece anymore. It used to be if someone wanted, to use a law firm, they'd go to the high street solicitors. They don't need to do that anymore. They can just go. There's so many pop-up, well, I can't think what the word is now, but the, shaking things up and they're coming along with the disruptors. And you don't have to go to your local firm anymore. So why would someone? So I quite often think with professional services, it's a bit like going to a dentist. So generally, it's someone you have to deal with that you don't particularly want to deal with.
And it's like pulling teeth.
It is. Yeah, for you guys, it's like pulling teeth. But it's that thing of going, oh, I need somebody to help me. I don't really know. Most normal people, most clients of professional services are not used to, unless it's a corporate client,
Yeah.
most people are individuals who have normal lives, who don't deal with lawyers and accountants and solicitors, financial advisors every day. So it's that kind of scary moment of going, right, who do I trust? It's all part of the customer journey. And it comes back to what I said at the beginning. It's not necessarily just about the service. That is important. And when you are speaking to somebody and when those touch points arise, it's really important to get those right. But it's making sure that going through the process is as easy as possible, that communication is happening, that people are getting back in touch when they said they would, that online forms are working if you're filling things out. So if you're using AI in any form or any kind of digital thing, that actually it still gets picked up by a human at some point. And what does that look like, and what happens if it's missed?
Yeah. I I've read a book about a restaurateur who created a new restaurant, and he said to his team, instead of going to other restaurants and looking at what they do really, really well, because he said that's a waste of time. Like other firms and other restaurants are doing that really, really well. Let's focus on what they're not doing well. And that touches on the point that you mentioned there about building trust and transactions, that I think professional services often worry about getting the transaction across the
Yeah.
line. And that doesn't build trust, does it?
No, exactly. And I think that's something. So we do mystery shopping of a lot of companies, and we do a lot of professional services firms. And one of the things we find is that they do treat it very transactionally. So somebody phones up a law firm and says they want a will. They just talk through the process of having a will.
Yeah.
There's no reason that they give them to choose them. They don't talk about the expertise they've got, how, put people at ease and say, this is something we do all the time. We can really help you with this. It becomes, and this is where I kind of go back to my theatre days. One of the analogies that I use when I'm training teams is that if you're in the theatre, if you're performing a show, a play, the audience expect to feel like that's the first time they've ever heard those words, those lines. And what happens with a lot of professional services firms, they get so used to having the same conversations. Oh, it's another divorce. That happens all the time. They forget that the person on the end of the phone, the first time possibly that they're going through this process, they don't understand. They're expecting to hear jargon, and they just want to feel like they're put at ease
Yeah.
and to feel safe and to feel like,
And they understood.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And I suppose the work that we've done over the years, one thing I drum into my team now on the back of what you've just said is that magic question, is there anything else I
Yeah.
can help with? And that might be about us as a firm or about the process or about, what to expect, what to bring
Yeah.
in the first meeting. And we've tried to combat all of that with an email that we send out to clients now when they book on for the first time, is we put some steps in there, what to expect, and some videos, which is on the back of
Yeah.
the work that we've done. Um, I find that, yeah, super interesting. And I think the more that firms can invest in thinking about it from a client's angle rather than their own
Yeah.
angle is the
And I
secret
think,
sauce.
I think keeping it simple is really important. I think some people think, we've got to, if we're going to invest in customer experience, we need to do something. We need to create a wow moment. We need to create these moments where a customer or a client goes, "Oh my god, that was amazing." But actually, if they haven't got the basics right, then it's never going to work. And I think it's getting I think the best businesses are the ones that are a bit above average all the time.
Mm,
So there's no drops.
consistency.
Yeah, it is. It's all about consistency and knowing that when you phone and speak to somebody or when you go onto the website, that the messaging is the same throughout, that you get that real sense of what the firm is like, but also that it's not gimmicks. It doesn't need to be, um, you know, creating these crazy things that they think, oh, people are going to talk about those. That's your marketing strategy. You might.
Branded stress balls.
Yes, exactly. Um, you can get all those things, but you have to get those other things right first. And unless you're doing, unless you've got the processes in place, unless you've got the systems, the structure. So obviously we do mystery shopping with you. So you've got a guideline of what it's not scripted, but you know that these touch points have to be done and these things have to be mentioned or communicated. And no matter who they deal with in your firm, you want them to have the same
Yeah.
experience. And that's what it should all be about. Whereas a lot of firms have what I call accidental experiences. So, and I'm sure, people will know this from big organizations. If you phone to cancel your broadband or something, quite often you're thinking, oh, it's always going to depend on who I speak to
Mm.
as to how this process is going to go. And it shouldn't work like that. If there's a proper customer experience strategy in place, it will be the same regardless because it's been thought about and it's not just, let's see what happens depending on,
Who's dealing with
yeah,
it? Yeah,
who's
yeah.
dealing with it, what day it is, what time it is. I think, yeah, that's a massive part of it.
Yeah, and I love the word consistency, as you said before about if you're going to say to a client, "I'll call you back within 2 hours," just
Yeah,
call
do
them
it.
back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it. Call them back in 2 hours. What do you think then is the biggest mistake professional services firms are doing right now?
I think it's communication. I think it is. I think it's that moment of and inconsistency. So there's also that danger of saying, we're going to phone you back in 2 hours and not doing it. If you don't say 2 hours, at least you're leaving it open. But if you're promising something and not delivering it, that's worse. So, but yeah, I think the communication is a real key thing. I think as clients and customers, we are much more time precious. We don't want to be, waiting around, and we don't mind waiting if we're told how long that wait's going to be. But if you don't know and you're uncertain and other firms are doing it better than you, then that's when you're going to lose people because people talk. I'm in the process at the moment of trying to get air conditioning because it's ridiculously hot.
I know, yeah. If you see us sweating,
Oh
by the
my
way,
God,
it's because it
it's
is warm.
ridiculous. And I've contacted a few firms over the last few days, and the difference between them has been that some haven't even got back to me at all, ever. Obviously, maybe too busy, don't want any extra clients. One guy's got back to me really quickly. I've had a phone call with them. They've given me a quote. Another guy has not given me a quote yet, but is kind of going down the route of, "Oh, whatever quote you're gonna get, we're gonna beat it for you." Well, I just want it done. So, it's yeah, it's consistency and communication, I think, are the two things.
I've got to ask you, are you constantly judging
Yeah.
everyone and every firm?
Always watching. Yeah, I don't mean to. I think it's just do you know what it is? I think we've become we don't expect much anymore. Someone said to me recently they were talking about, um I can't remember what company it was. They was dealing with a company and they were like, "Oh, they were really good." They got back to me like the next day and I'm like, "Since when has that been really good?
Mm,
That should just be standard. That should be expected. If you contact a company, they
yeah,
get back to you within a working day. Like
that should be the
that's not
norm.
hard."
Mm.
And yet we've kind of gone to when those things are happening, it's like, "Oh, this is great," which is good news for companies because actually they don't need to do that much to make it better. But people have just I just think firms just they think about sales, they think about marketing, and they just forget about the customer and seeing it through the customer's eyes.
And if you're spending lots of money on marketing, Facebook ads, articles, press, wherever it might be, and those new clients come to your business and they don't receive a
Yeah.
great experience, like you said, it only takes that one character, that one
Yeah.
customer that doesn't have a great time to quickly spread that
Yeah,
bad press,
exactly.
doesn't it? Very
Yeah.
quickly. And I know I've seen it here. We've won new clients just because we got back to them
Yeah.
in a reasonable time, not because we were the best.
Obviously you were.
I'd like to think we're very good, but it literally because we got in
Yeah.
touch with them promptly,
Yeah.
and people value that. And I know from the surveys that's often one of the metrics that's used is that they're always available,
Yeah.
and that probably links onto that
Yeah, and I think
consistency.
that again comes down to people are constantly trying to win more customers, trying to win more clients. But if they focus on the ones that are already there and really nurture those and look after them instead of kind of going, "Oh, you're in now. Well, let's
Yeah,
forget
you're in the
about
queue
you.
now.
And now you're in a queue and now we'll get back to you whenever, but we're going to focus on these new ones." That doesn't work. Or if they just focused on constantly looking for new people, but not having that process right at the beginning. So, filling in online inquiry forms that never get to anybody because they're going into a spam folder, but nobody knows. Or they're going to someone who goes, "Oh, this isn't my problem. This is not my department." either shoots it off somewhere else or just ignores it. There's all those little things that until you really look from the outside in, it's really difficult to do it internally because it's your business. You think everything is going well, you've got customers, you're busy.
Yeah.
So it's having the time to be able to do it. So I think, yeah, having an external pair of eyes makes a huge difference.
I completely agree. And I think the other thing I think's been a game changer for us as well has been the client survey. Because again, if you sit in front of a client face to face, they might not be inclined to
Yeah.
give you the critical truth. Whereas if they've got the ability to do it via email and it's hands off, you can get some really vital feedback. And my belief system's always been, if there's a problem, I want to know about it yesterday so I can do something about it. And it might be that actually that client ends up the wrong fit for us and that
Yeah.
we're not the best people to help them. So let's deal with that, straight away rather than trying to pretend they're happy, try to pretend that there's not a problem. And in 5, 10 years' time, it turns into a
Yeah.
bigger problem. Do you think firms are doing enough client surveys?
I think some firms are doing too many client surveys.
Right?
Um, I think the majority of people are not doing them in the right way. So I think there is a case of a little bit of survey fatigue because people will go, right, okay, let's create a survey monkey and send it out or
Yeah.
Google Forms, but then they're not doing anything with it. So what's good, and I know you do this, is it's the closing the loop afterwards. So it's looking at them, looking at the comments and going back and then dealing with it and doing a bit of a you said we did when it's a wider case. And then when it's the individuals going back and actually going, right, okay, we really do appreciate the feedback. Because otherwise, if you keep asking for feedback, but then not telling anybody what you do with it, eventually people will just stop filling them in.
Yeah.
Whereas if they can see things are happening, they're more likely to go, actually, I've got something to say now. And I know they're going to listen because last time this is what happened. So I think more businesses need to do surveys in the right way. But there are still loads that aren't even asking. So at least some of them are asking.
So yeah, do it and do it in the right way.
Yeah.
Get that balance. Look, we got a couple of minutes just left. So anything else that you wanted to shout out about?
So I have just launched very exciting news, breaking news.
You heard it here first.
I mean, you might not have if you're on LinkedIn, but heard it here second
First
or third.
podcast.
First podcast I've mentioned it on. So I've just launched the North Wales, Chester and Wirral Customer Experience Awards. So they're going to be local awards because I'm all about working locally and supporting locally. Um, Focusing on how businesses are looking at their customer experience. And you don't need to be perfect to enter. That's not what we're expecting, but it's just starting to build that awareness and people are thinking about it. And some businesses are doing some really good things. And it's that employee experience and the customer experience merged together to create that overall effect. So the awards are now open. Yeah, people can apply to them until the 13th of September. And then the awards ceremony is going to be on the 23rd of October in Chester.
And the sponsorship
Yes,
opportunities
there
there.
are still sponsorship opportunities available. So yeah, people can reach out to me. And I'm assuming you'll put my name up in lights somewhere.
We will, and we'll put
Magic.
the website link for the awards on there as well.
Brilliant.
I suppose to sum things up then, how I think about it, and you've certainly solidified this belief system in me, that great customer experiences can be one of the best marketing strategies for any business.
Yeah. There are studies done, and I haven't got the stats on the top of my head, but it's something like you can be 25% more profitable, and that's profitable, not
Yeah.
revenue, by focusing on customer experiences compared to businesses that don't. So it's crazy not to do it, but it is often a missed strategy in there.
A no-brainer, as my
Yes.
dad would say. Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Rhian. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Hope that's been an interesting podcast with the amazing Rhian. Thank you.